William has in the past fortnight seized control of the British monarchy from a weak and dying King Charles, and that spells very bad news for Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, Archie and Lily.
The palace just sent the clearest message without saying a word. If you can be edited out, you can be written off. The Sussexes are learning that in real time. Next up, the hard edge, a titles reform route that moves power from sentiment to statute. We'll map the timeline from soft erasure to legal strike, the role Parliament plays as the bad cop, and why public opinion data gets waived like a permission slip. Want to know how this ends? Follow the paper trail, not the headlines. Here's where it all starts to crumble. The links don't break overnight. They fade. Charity pages that once sat one click away now redirect to archives. Bios slide into past tense. Photos move from prime real estate to the basement. No trumpet, no banner, just a quiet shuffle that says more than a press conference ever would. First came the scrubbed crosslinks. Projects once threaded through the royal family site lost their pathways. A click that used to take you from a profile to a patronage now lands on a generic archive note. Mentions shrink from paragraphs to a single line. Sussex-related pages drop a tier, then another. The digital footprint doesn't vanish. It's thinned until it barely registers. Why does this matter without a formal statement? Because in palace PR, the edit is the announcement. The machine speaks through what it surfaces and what it buries. When a profile's verb switch to was and served, the message reads loud. You're historical, not current. Look at the before and after cues. A project page that once opened with a banner image gets a thumbnail. A name that used to autocomplete in the site search falls behind senior royals with active duties. Meghan's initiatives lose easy routes from the main nav. You can still find them if you know the exact path. Most users won't. That's the point. Institutional comms do this when a scandal turns radioactive. They don't erase, they de-index. Corporate crisis playbooks call it reputation triage. You move the liability out of sightlines and let time blunt interest. The firm borrowed that play and executed it with a steady hand. It's Hollywood logic applied to royalty, like a studio demoting a star from top billing. The face stays on the poster, but the name drops below the fold. Still in the cast, no longer the draw. Insiders claim the sign-off label was housekeeping. That's the code word when the mess is deliberate. You call it routine, so nobody asks why it all changed in a week. The truth came to light in the silence around a UK visit. No briefings, no pooled quotes, no warm photos to seed. The royal machine went dark. That's punishment, dressed as policy. Search placement tells the same story. Priority queries now serve up active working royals, recent state work, then legacy Sussex items tucked under a more click. The scroll becomes the moat. You feel the distance growing one ranking at a time. So yes, the edits look cosmetic, but they set the frame for what comes next. Digital silence is step 1. Step 2 has a legal spine. You strip visibility to soften the ground, then you question privileges. That's sequencing matters. The takeaway lands clean. If you can be edited out, you can be written off. Phase 1 did exactly what it was designed to do. Mission accomplished. But now that the glitter has worn off, what's left? The statute.
But you know what? When I read this, I thought, is Queen Camilla the most reasonable royal? I mean, if this is true, I imagine King Charles's health is her main concern. He has cancer. Harry and Meghan do not make his life easy these days. I can see her trying to protect her husband. But whether or not there's any real scheme in the mix, I doubt she's going that far, but I'm sure she is saying, you know what, pump the brakes and let's see whether or not we can actually trust these two who've proven to be entirely selfish over the last 5 years.
The whispered truth. When the king looks weak, the heir acts strong. That's when the boardroom replaces the ballroom. You felt it the moment the edits went live. Silence up front, control behind the curtain. That silence had an owner. William steps in like a CEO taking over a messy division. Fewer spokespeople, tight talking points, meetings that end with action items, not sentiment. Brand first, always. The firm becomes a product with a roadmap, not a family with a feud. You don't hear much because that's the point. Discipline keeps costs down. Scandals included. Here's the clash at the core. Charles favors a soft pair of hands, soothe, invite, reconcile. William goes surgical, minimize risk, cut noise, protect the asset. Two styles, one crown. Only one wins when the market turns hostile. Sources say William decided the market had already turned. The precedent was set with Andrew. Public disgrace. Internal demotion. A PR firewall so thick you only saw him when the institution allowed it. That case gave the palace a manual. Isolate the liability, strip access, let the narrative cool. The lesson stuck. Insiders claim William treats the monarchy like a tech brand mid-crisis. Ship fewer updates. Control the UI, the images, the feeds, the captions. Cut buggy features. Join appearances that invite side stories, ad hoc quotes that light fires. He doesn't chase headlines. He starves them. Bugs don't leak if the product never releases. You can track it in the calendar and the cameras. Fewer joint engagements that mix message. Photo ops staged with clinical precision, one angle, one line, no freelancing. Briefings get shorter, sharper. Spokespeople default to no comment rather than joust with drama. Not cowardice. Strategy. You remove oxygen and the blaze dies on its own. That's the family conflict no one wants to say out loud. Sentiment versus triage. Tradition says keep the door open. Brand safety says bolt it. The dream, it's cracking. And when it cracks, the people who still bring heat get treated like a product recall. Quiet, contained, expensive if mishandled. Here's the analogy that nails it: a legacy company pulling a flagship from shelves after failures. It's still the flagship on paper, but it vanishes from storefronts until the risk clears. Not rage. Risk control. So, where does this go when edits stop working? Into the tool that bites. Hard power. A legal lever with a clean handle that moves privileges from assumed to authorized. The work is already framed as modernization and accountability, safe words that sell in a crisis. And that's your mini payoff. William isn't raging. He's reformatting. This is a corporate takeover conducted in whispers. He doesn't need public feuds when he can restructure access, reorder hierarchy, and outsource the punishment. And now the twist everyone's been waiting for: statute as the bad cop. The soft delete made space. The next move spends real power.
And the Daily Beast is actually taking this story even further, saying Prince William will strip Prince Andrew along with all other non-working royals of their HRHs and princely titles when he ascends to the throne. Meghan and Harry will see their dukedoms and HRHs formally revoked, according to the Daily Beast, by Prince William, then King William. We've seen Meghan continue to use her HRH despite being ordered not to do so by the late Queen Elizabeth II. And they say that Prince William's own children will have their titles informally parked until they become adults and decide for themselves if they want to be full-time working royals or lead lives as private citizens.
Look, edits are cosmetic. Titles are currency. The next move spends real power. Here's the route insiders keep sketching. A titles reform mechanism that doesn't lurch through endless votes every time a scandal erupts. Centralized authority. Clear criteria. A standing process that lets the institution act once, then apply the rule, not relitigate the drama. Draft the statute with broad language. Protect dignity. Maintain standards, then delegate decisions to a defined body. You avoid the circus, you keep control, and you make exception a relic. Now the tension. Parliament becomes the bad cop. The crown stays the clean face. MPs swing the axe in public. The palace nods in private. So when backlash hits, the line is simple. Respect for the legislature, respect for process. That distance isn't accidental. It's the shield. The firm keeps the brand white glove while the law does the heavy lifting. The blueprint is sitting in plain sight. Andrew demonstrated the model. Public disgrace, internal demotion, then a PR firewall. That outcome turned into a talking point called modernization and accountability. The lesson got baked into strategy. If a prince can go from center stage to off-grid, the system can justify stronger measures. You call it reform, not retribution. You say you're protecting standards, not settling scores. Here's the fuel that makes it sellable: public opinion. Polling that brands Meghan as a bigger threat becomes the permission slip. Once the numbers stack, the politics soften. Lawmakers want cover. This gives it to them. William can point to sentiment and say, duty requires action. It reframes punishment as policy. It also starves the personal vendetta narrative. The crowd asked for it. The system delivered. And this is where feelings crash into statute. A family apology doesn't undo a vote. Once a reform passes, you can't dial it back because someone smiled at a church service. Sentiment can trend. Law sets concrete. That's the cruel clarity of codifying consequences. The justification writes itself in committee notes. Meghan's commercial ventures, beauty brand, media deals, get framed as monetizing the mystique. The late Queen's line about titles signaling duty, not brand identity, becomes the moral spine. If the monarchy stands apart from the market, then selling proximity to the crown reads as crossing a red line. Insiders claim William views that as an act of war on the brand, and the stakes extend to the children. If titles shift, their status resets. California heirs without the British halo. Contracts change. Invitations change. The future footprint shrinks. The world is watching. So the mini payoff is blunt. The path is clear. Soft power erased relevance. Hard power would erase privilege. That's the legal grenade on the table, pinned halfway out, waiting for a convenient calendar window. So here we are. The brand is protected. But what does this new monarchy leave behind? Loyalty traded for compliance. Family downgraded to franchise. And once you run it like a company, every misstep becomes a cost center with a policy fix. The edit wasn't petty, it was policy. The statute won't be personal, it'll be permanent. That's the aftermath. A monarchy run like a brand, where silence is strategy and access is inventory. We trade tea for terms and conditions. Insiders claim compliance, now outranks kinship. The firm protects the logo, even if the family fractures. The dream, it's cracking, but the machine runs smoother. Do you think William's purge saves the crown or hollows it out? Kindly let us know in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If Phase 1 was the scrub, Phase 2 is the strike. Follow the paper trail, not the headlines.